Okay, Yulia, how's your day going so far?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me. How's your day going?
My day is going great, and it's going to be better once I get to learn a little bit more about Captors from you. First of all, this movie, Captors, for anybody who's not familiar with it or hasn't heard of it, how could you explain it, in your own terms, from your perspective?
So briefly, this is a story about a young female that was sex trafficked into this country and was sold into slavery to the serial killer, who she eventually escapes as a kid, and then 10 years later, she's being lured back into the same location without knowledge. She didn't know she was deceived, and um, and then when she gets there, a bunch of crazy situations happen, and we don't know what's real, what's not. So it definitely messes with your head. It's very psychological, and
Yeah,
it depicts
we
very clearly all the horrors that these victims go through psychiatrically.
And we can definitely see that in the trailer even where it's like I'm here or am I or I'm dead or am I? You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
the psychosis there. I
Yeah, it's
really
definitely
like it.
there, and it took us. We did a lot of research, both the director and I, interviewed psychologists and victims and of abuse, and it's a very challenging situation to be in. And those who are lucky enough to survive this, they're forever changed, because they have to live with the fear for the rest of their life, no matter how hard they work on this. They have to live with depression and hallucinations. And the big thing that we're depicting in this film is also Stockholm Syndrome, whereby the victim basically starts loving and positively thinking about the person who holds her or him or her in captivity.
Yeah, that's I know you wear many hats. You're an actress in this, but do you also do any of the production? Did you handle any of the writing, anything like that?
No, but I actively participated whenever there were some changes made, in the script, and we actually changed a lot of little things throughout the shoot in the script. And so the director always would run things by me, by the producers before we make the change, but obviously the writer. So, I mean, I definitely the people in this project were so collaborative. Everybody's asking everybody's opinion. We listen to each other. Obviously the director at the end will be the boss, but it's a very collaborative process. And I also get to, sometimes our makeup team was amazing, and if I didn't like something, or if something felt a little bit excessive, they'll consult with me a little bit, like, what do you think about this, what do you think about that? But our team was amazing, so I pretty much loved everything, and especially the character that James created, Twisted Alice. Our makeup team department did amazing job on that character, because
That's
I play
awesome.
both characters there in the movie.
That's awesome. That's great. So had you worked with any of the people on that film before prior to joining this movie, or was
Uh,
this something that you
no, this
had?
is the first time ever working with all those actors, and majority of the crew. Yeah, it's always the first time you come in. Sometimes you don't know anybody, but you get to meet people during lunch breaks and you know um, pre-shoot days. When we meet sessions, and it's definitely exciting to meet talented, like-minded people.
Did you end up did you how did you end up involved in the film in the first place, since you weren't a writer or anything like that? Did
But
it
I was
come
working
across your
with a
desk?
Sure, sure. So I was working with a writer, Philip Day, on another project. We're still working on it right now, up to this day, because we're developing a very interesting screenplay inspired by true events as well that happened in Villisca, Iowa. And can't give away too much of the story as yet, but it's very, very exciting, horror, psychological as well. Um, and he presented this to us, and he's like, "Hey, I have this like really interesting, screenplay that I had for years, So I loved it because it's very challenging for me as an actor. Like I said, a lot of things were tweaked there, and then James liked it because he thought there's not much dialogue in there. So it gave him a lot of leeway to create certain scenes that he wanted to create from his perspective, but at the same time giving me an opportunity to tell my story of my character from my perspective, you know.
Right, yeah. Now the sex trafficking film, the title of that again, I can't,
Captors.
Captors, yeah. So Captors, is that out on digital already or is that
Yes,
coming out?
it came out at the end of May, and it's available on streaming platforms: Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Hulu, YouTube, a bunch of streaming platforms.
And I know you said you did a lot of research and you talked to a lot of people involved in it. Is there anybody who had reached out to you after the movie that came out that you had talked to and said like that movie helped them, or like that movie like it made it helped them connect to it because they were a part of the research process? Or is that something where it's kind of too traumatic for them to watch it?
It's both ways. So I didn't have too many people reaching out. I had some people who reached out and thanked me for portraying this character from the side that will never be shown. Like a lot of times when we think of sex trafficking, or watch anything on, online or films, anything, most of it is just talking about how people actually sex trafficked, but not a lot of them are talking about the psychiatric damage that is done to them permanently. So I had people who reached out to me, uh, thanking, for just a few people so far. For some, I think it's a little bit traumatic to relive certain moments. I'm not saying, because of course this is an overly exaggerated story, but at the same time, um, we don't know what situations are in, because majority of them die. They don't make it to this world. They die. It's a very small statistics that make it alive out
Is
of captivity.
is any of that something that you were aware of and passionate about prior to becoming involved in this movie? Or do you
Um,
think
I,
go ahead.
yeah, I was, but not to the extent that I am right now, because the more you learn, the more you do your research, the more you realize how big this problem is in today's world, and it's everywhere. It's a global issue all over the world. China is number one country in the world with this problem, and America is, I mean, it's not on top of the chart, but it's there. Florida, California, a bunch of other states here, they're in trouble, and they're big states for where these transactions happen. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people in this world who support this by paying money for some of those services. And it's a global problem that is not addressed enough. And I don't know how many more years it will take. It will never be resolved, in my opinion, just because not a lot of people participate in resolution of this issue. But we're trying to make our voices heard, and whatever we can do on our end.
Well, that's awesome, and hopefully that will, reach a lot of people. Um, the whole despite the captors thing, were there any other films that you did research where, because I know you a lot of your stuff from what I've looked into has been either like thriller, action, horror type. Were there any other films where you did research on real things that kind of opened your eyes in this similar way as captors did?
You're talking about like similar films, something.
Something that you did, like, so for this one you learned, for when you did captors, you learned a lot about the extra things involved with sex trafficking.
I mostly was studying what I was studying in my research, and James, our goal was to study the behaviors, the PTSD situation where people already survived certain abusive situations, slaveries, or psychologists who interviewed those, who actually had sessions with those patients, and um, you know that side we were mostly researching. And of course, statistics is always out there, in terms of which country is the top country in the world for sex trafficking. Everybody knows that. But I'm talking about, the research that we've done, the almost clinical research, asking doctors from their experiences if they can share certain general behavioral elements of this particular recovery. We
That's
can call
really
it recovery.
that's really deep. That's a really deep level. Is there anything that people haven't asked you about that movie that you feel like you'd like to express, like using this as a platform?
Well, a lot of people, I see a tail of a cat here. Hello.
Yeah, she keeps, I'm sorry, she keeps coming up here
It's
on the
okay. We
desk.
can say hi to her, right? She wants to interview me too.
Yeah,
She
she's
wants to say hi.
she's over there. She's around here somewhere. She'll be
By the
back.
way, our director James loves cats. He's a cat person. It's quite
Okay.
amazing to see this.
If I talk to him, I'll make sure to show
All
him.
right. Okay, so could you repeat the question because we got distracted for a second?
Of course. Sorry
I
about the
apologize.
cat. I was saying, is there anything that people don't ask you about Captors that you feel and you'd like to say and express? You can kind of use this as a
Right.
platform.
Right. So what a lot of people do ask, I would say, is a lot of times they confuse it for so this is a horror film, right? So this is a horror film. They're thinking it's genre-wise. Yeah, it kind of falls into the category of psychological thriller slash horror. But what's horrific about this again is the whole situation in general of sex trafficking, of slavery, of abuse, and of PTSD that comes after that. So that's basically what's horrific about this.
Do you need to take that?
Apologize. Now it's my phone ringing.
Okay. Do you need to
No, no,
answer
I
that?
don't need to get it,
Okay.
but it's just gonna continue ringing. Do you want to like wait for a second? I can. It just.
It's
I just. It's gonna continue ringing until it stops ringing.
no, that's okay. It's okay. Um, so looks like it's done. I am
Yeah.
gonna
Cool.
ask you then. We've talked about Captors, which just came out. I think was it your last movie? Was it called Death Riders in the House of
This was
Vampires?
right. This was released before Captors, and it's directed by the greatest Glenn Danzig. He is a very famous musician and very talented musician, and now he's directing films. So this is a spaghetti western spoof, right? And have you seen it, or did you see the
I
trailer?
I did not see it because I had asked for a screener for it and they sent me the trailer and said that you
Mhm.
were promoting something different. So I did not see it yet, but I think it was you and Danny Trejo.
So Danny Trejo has a cameo role there. We have a bunch of it's a really good ensemble cast, and it was just a fun project to be part of. I had to because I'm Eastern European. English is not my first language, so I had to be able to present my lines with a Southern accent, which was a little bit challenging, but I learned, and it was fun. And the shoot itself, we shot only at night, and it was in the middle of the winter in California, in the desert, and it was pretty freezing there. They built sets. Everything was fun. The makeup crew was great. Everybody was very hardworking, and it was fun working on the set.
That kind of leads me to a question, just out of curiosity. How many different accents have you had to learn and pick up on in order to throughout your
Yeah.
acting career so far?
So I'm working on the British accent, and I did an audition for a chewing gum commercial. I didn't get it. I was so close, but everybody told me it was great because I had to do it with a British accent, and I had to do this in Spanish. And
Uh,
I think by now I can tell. I mean, I didn't get it, but it was um, orbit, no matter what. And then in Spanish, I had to say boca sucia, limpiala con orbit. So that was my famous line. So once I have my lines and once I prepare, I listen to songs, I listen to movies, watch movies and listen. It's all about how your ear perceives the dialects, and. So I think once I keep playing it over and over in my head, then it comes easy.
nice. So, really quick, can I ask what started you and what was the spark to get you on screen in the first place?
I've been always a performer all my life, ever since I was little, and my sister would gather all of our friends and family members outside of our houses, and she'll be a director of plays, and in her mind, she was like the boss for some reason. She's older, but it's like it's like, who made you the director? And so like she'll say like, you're gonna be like a policeman, you're gonna be a tree, I will be a tree, you know, I'll be. So it started out with little roles from my sister. She was kind enough to give me. And singing, you know, in front of our families, and then kindergarten performances, and then school activities, you know, it was just fun all around, you know. And then you realize, hey, I kind of love it, I like to be in front of the camera, let's do the dancing classes, let's do kickboxing classes. So I tried pretty much everything in my opinion, you know. And then, you know, you start going to auditions, you start doing background roles, the real background roles, not like, you know, outside of your house. So you just
The
it's
real
fun to
background.
just like, you know, you have to start from like, people think I'm not going to do background roles, I'm not going to do this, like it's beneath me. I don't think it should be beneath anybody. If you've never tried, my advice to anybody who's considering acting, it's a great way to kind of experience what it's like to be on the set and to learn professionalism. You know, of course, you're not going to be given any lines when you start out with background, but it's a great opportunity to just get a vibe of how people work, what does the director of photography does, what does a first AD, this person, that person, wardrobe people, how everything works. Just observe it. Just sit there and observe when you have this opportunity, because that's a great indicator. Do you want to be in this business? Do you not? Because a lot of it is business too. So people have to understand it's not just like all glitz and glamour of the red carpets and, you know, photographers. It's a lot of hard work, perseverance, studying your lines, doing your research. It's a lot of work. So if you start gradually and you do a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and then you get a little bit bigger roles and a little bit bigger, we're all growing and evolving, you know. I
Correct.
haven't made it yet. Once I make it, I'll let you know. But you know, I'm working hard.
Well, obviously you are very passionate about acting, but I saw that you are also a producer and a writer. What is your goal ultimately? Is it to be able to just switch through these things, or is there one that you're interested more in than the others?
Right now, I love acting so much, but the reason why I'm trying everything is because I just, like I just mentioned, I want to know the business inside out. And of course, I will not be, you know, maybe I'm not the greatest producer in the world as yet because I haven't, you know, learned as much as I would like to. It's a very challenging, very difficult thing to do. But I also have a dream of directing one day. I have a lot of dreams and aspirations. So for right now, I will just stick with, you know, what I do the best and what I can do even better, which is acting, you know. And then other things will come. I just have to work with the right group of people, you know. I have a couple of things in works right now in terms of producer work. You know, I co-written a screenplay for a pilot, it's a comedy, dark comedy pilot. So that's still in works, and hopefully something will happen out of it. You know, it's a very fun read. So we'll see. But I'm trying everything. You know, whatever is my passion. If I like a story, it's all about a story. And as actors, we're storytellers. So if the story is not that great, then it's harder to tell the story when you're given the script.
Sure,
But
definitely.
that's why, like, if I am passionate about something, I'll collaborate in the writing process, I'll contribute something, you know. The writer should know my passions, you know, what I like as a actress, you know. And collaborative process is a big deal.
So, one of the last questions then before I let you go. I
Mhm.
know one of your last movies you had worked with Bruce Willis. I was
Yes.
curious if you knew at that time that that was going to be his last performance, or
Mhm.
if that's not something you guys were aware of.
I mean, I was not specifically told that this is the last movie. I know that from our, you know, after Survive the Game, he had, you know, another film that he was on part of, I believe, in Georgia. But I mean, you know, he's a great actor, and he will always go into the history of being one very charismatic person. He, you know, I mean, he has tons of achievements in his life, and he will go into the history as one of the greatest actors and amazing people. And I
So,
had an honor to work with him, so that's great. I'm honored.
okay. So, is there any social media or anything you'd like your fans to find you on?
Yes, I am on Instagram at official Yulia Klass, and on Twitter, same official Yulia Klass. Shoot me a text message, whatever, comment, like. I'll follow you, you follow me,
Okay, sounds good. Thank you
and
so
watch
much.
our movies.
No, yes, definitely. And you can see them on digital.
Yep,
You
digital
have
platform.
Captors, and right before that, it was Death Riders in the Valley of
Uh,
Death,
Captors, Death Rider in the House of Vampires.
House of Vampires.
Yeah, it's a long title. I know it's a little bit challenging. Initially, I believe it was just Death Rider, and now it's Death Rider in the House of Vampires.
All right, so make sure you guys check that out on digital. And thank you again for joining me, Yulia.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
You too.